I never imagined a homeless girl's last coin would inspire a millionaire's heart to change. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other cold morning, with the sun just barely cutting through the gray sky. I could hear the distant rumbling of traffic, but all I felt was the emptiness inside. I was hunched over on the sidewalk, the asphalt cold beneath my worn jeans. My hands trembled as I clutched the last coin I had, a dull penny that was worth more than gold to me. Around me, life passed by in a blur. People rushed to their jobs, laughter echoing from a nearby cafe, oblivious to my plight. I'd learned to sink into the background, a ghost in their world. But that morning, as I stared at that tiny coin, I believed it could change something. Anything. The air shimmered with unspoken possibilities, and it felt like I was teetering on the edge of something monumental. Then he appeared. A figure dressed in a tailored suit, his briefcase swinging like a pendulum, he looked down at me with curiosity mingled with disdain. There was something about his eyes, a storm brewing beneath the polished surface. I could feel his gaze piercing through my skin, and I held my breath. What was he thinking? Did he see me, or just another face in the crowd? I wanted to scream, to cry out that I existed, I was here. But my voice was trapped inside, locked away behind walls of fear and shame. As the confident millionaire turned away, I felt a lump in my throat. It's just a penny, I told myself, just a silly piece of copper. But in that moment, it felt like my last chance. Then, as if the universe decided to intervene, the penny slipped through my fingers. It clattered to the ground and rolled. I watched helplessly, my heart racing, as it danced through the air, finally landing at the man's polished shoes. He stopped. Fascination etched across his face. The bustling street fell silent, even the birds paused to watch. What would he do? Would he pick it up? Would he cast it aside as if it were trash? My heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing louder than the last. Around us, strangers paused mid-step, the tension palpable. He reached down with surprising gentleness, scooping the penny up as if it were the rarest treasure. I held my breath. What was more shocking, the sight of $1 million man intrigued by a worthless coin or the hope it sparked in my chest? The crowd sighed as he examined it, a light flickering in his eyes, something raw and unguarded. Then he turned to me, and I saw it, a flicker of understanding. Hope. I wanted to believe. But just like that, he quickly pocketed the penny and walked away, leaving me breathless and confused. My heart raced, anticipation prickled in the air, and I was left wondering, what did that mean? How could a single penny change everything? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days unfurled like a tattered blanket, each one feeling as cold and empty as the last. I spent hours sitting outside that cafe, my usual spot, enveloped by the aroma of fresh pastries and coffee that wafted through the air, an intoxicating reminder of warmth and comfort I couldn't touch. With every glance thrown in my direction, I became more of a ghost, invisible amid the cheerful chatter and the clinking of cups. But I had not forgotten that man, the millionaire who had picked up my penny. It was etched into my mind, a novel moment of connection, however brief it had been. A glimmer of hope lingered in the back of my mind, his intrigue swirling like a soft breath against my skin on those frigid nights. Days turned into weeks, and the cold winter air slithered through my jacket like an unwelcome whisper. Each time I felt the scrape of concrete beneath me, I thought of that penny, still nestled in the millionaire's pocket. Had he looked at it again? Had it stirred something in him? Perhaps he would even return, change his mind, take pity on me. But the silence that followed was deafening. I often wondered how one small moment could feel so loud while the world around me continued to muffle my existence. The cold seeped deeper into my bones as unease settled in. I had not eaten in 2 days, and the grumbling of my stomach felt like a sick reminder of survival. I watched passers-by share warmth and laughter, their joy a distant echo that sent sharp pangs through my heart. Would anyone offer me even the smallest kindness? Just as despair threatened to engulf me, a kindly woman with arms overflowing with bags approached. She was a volunteer from a nearby shelter, and her smile was the sun emerging from behind winter clouds. "Would you like something to eat?" she asked, her voice a gentle melody. I blinked, momentarily stunned, and nodded. I stammered a quiet thank you as she handed me a sandwich and a bottle of water. As I took a bite, I felt the weight in my chest lift just a little. The bread was warm and fresh. For a moment, I didn't feel like nothing. I was a girl enjoying a meal, and that was enough to remind me that warmth existed in this world, even on the coldest of days. That night, as I settled down in my makeshift sleeping spot, a sense of strange apprehension held me. I caught the sight of a flickering street lamp overhead, its light growing dimmer. Was this how it all ended? Did people even know how easy it was to overlook a soul fighting to be noticed? And then I thought of the millionaire again. Maybe he would return, perhaps clutching his own vision of hope, but the next morning, that glimmer of wishful thinking turned to shattering reality. I jolted awake when I heard shouting. My surroundings slowly came into focus. A group of men had gathered across the street, their voices rising in anger, their gestures wild. Curiosity pulled me in their direction, and as I stood, I felt a tightening in my chest as they all pointed towards the cafe. My heart raced as I moved closer, the bustling noise fading into background static. Then I understood, the cafe was closing, rent had skyrocketed, and now lives were being uprooted. My first thought went to the woman who had fed me, and outwardly I kept my composure, but inside, a storm of emotion raged. "This can't be happening," I whispered, panic wrapping its icy fingers around my throat. How would anyone survive in this city without that place? Was everything I touched crumbling into dust? As the crowd gathered, I caught glimpses of fear and uncertainty reflected back at me. But just when despair threatened to swallow me whole, I saw him, the millionaire turned savior. He stepped out of a town car, adjusting his tie, surveying the chaos around him with an expression that could only be described as a mixture of determination and disbelief. And then he turned. Our eyes met. For a moment, in that ocean of people, everything else faded. He recognized me, if only for a heartbeat. Would he speak? Would he help? But before anything could unfold, the world rushed back in. A woman clutched her child close, yelling for help, and the millionaire took a step back, torn between the writhing reality of the moment and the whispers of change that had once stirred his heart. Time hung heavy, and as the tension thickened, an unsettling thought washed over me. That penny wasn't just a coin, it might have been the key to something profound, but in a world so chaotic, how could it ever truly open a path to change? And as I watched him turn away, hope slipping through my fingers like that coin had weeks ago, a new wave of emotion crashed down on me. The junction of chaos and hope swirled around us, and I was left with the haunting knowledge that sometimes, our paths destined to cross can't find harmony amid the noise. The light flickered overhead, failing. I took a deep breath, readying myself for whatever emotional whirlwind was about to strike. What if this was just another twist in our ever-winding tale? Or perhaps the beginning of something neither of us could have ever anticipated? The morning after the chaos overshadowed the cafe, I felt like a shadow myself, floating through life without anchors or direction. The news of the cafe's closure rippled through the streets and found its way to my ears like an unwelcome song stuck on repeat. Each passerby seemed to carry a peculiarity within them, their joy or concern a reminder of the fragility of human connection. That familiar bench, my refuge, my sanctuary, was now a stark reminder of those lost moments shared over steaming cups of coffee, laughter, and warmth. As I sat there, the air heavy with the remnants of my cold breath, I felt something stir within me, an ember flickering amidst the ashes of my despondence. At that moment, I resolved to seek the woman who had fed me the day before, hoping to find both a friend and a guide in this unexpected storm. Her name was Anna, or so she had introduced herself, and she worked at the shelter. The thought of her warm smile infused a bit of courage into my veins. With resolve building up inside me, I ventured towards the shelter, my heart racing with uncertainty. Perhaps she would have a plan, some scrap of hope that could turn everything around. As I reached the shelter, I was met by the bustle of volunteers sorting donations and people lining up for meals. The energy vibrated with both urgency and compassion, a strange concoction that soothed the ache in my chest. I scanned the room until I spotted her, Anna, her brown hair pulled back in a messy bun, engaged in conversation with a few of her colleagues. "Anna!" I called out, stepping tentatively closer. She turned, her eyes lighting up when she recognized me. "Oh, it's you!" she exclaimed, beaming as if I were a long-lost friend. "You look better today. Did you get something to eat?" "Thanks to you," I replied, the weight of gratitude swelling within me. "But I heard about the cafe. I wanted to see what we could do. I don't want to lose that place." Anna's smile slipped slightly as she searched my face for understanding. "I know it feels like a crushing blow. The cafe was more than just coffee, wasn't it? It was a community. But don't lose hope. We can still come together, and we are. There are meetings planned to rally support and find new spaces." Her words fluttered around me like a butterfly. Perhaps, just perhaps, not all was lost. "Can I help?" I asked, aching to contribute somehow, to be part of something larger than my own struggle. "Absolutely." Anna clapped her hands, her enthusiasm infectious. "We can use all the help we can get. Come in tomorrow morning to help serve breakfast and distribute flyers. You can talk to people about what's happening." That I nodded, fueled by a fire igniting within me. I knew it was still a long road ahead, uncertainty loomed like clouds overhead. But in that moment, I felt inspired, invigorated by the idea of bridging my existence with others and morphing loss into something beautiful. As I left the shelter, I felt a familiar weight in my pocket, the penny. Its presence reminded me of the curiosity and kindness I had experienced, the flicker of change brought upon by an encounter with the millionaire. The days bled into moments of labor, laughter, and camaraderie, and little by little, I started to feel alive again. The previous day's turmoil was replaced by dawns shared with others, laughter shared over pots of soup, and stories interwoven like a complex tapestry of resilience. I began to see bits of humanity everywhere, even as the city outside turned a blind eye, but soon, the warmth would be chased away yet again. During an evening meeting organized by Anna, intentions poured out, but so did overwhelming fears. Investors had begun to claim the cafe's spot for a new high-rise, and protests echoed the desperation filtrating through the community. The millionaire had promised to advocate for small businesses but had also made connections with the buyers. My chest tightened at the thought of him being caught in the web of greed. Anna spoke passionately, urging everyone to don their armor of determination to fight back, to mobilize. I felt the undeniable swell of support filling the room, the collective energy igniting something inside of me. Despite the tension that danced on the walls of our makeshift sanctuary, I couldn't shake the thought of the millionaire. And that was when it happened. My phone buzzed, breaking through the somberness of the gathering. It was a text alert, and my heart raced as I glanced at the sender. "Meet me at the cafe. I need to talk." I stared at the screen in disbelief, the words barely able to sink in. Was this real? The millionaire? After weeks of silence, I felt the world narrow into a single point, a vortex drawing me into an uncertain fate. Suddenly I was both hoping for and fearing this encounter, dizzy with the thrill of possibility and the dread of rejection. Could this penny I cradled tight ever be more than a tangible token of lost connection? Excitement and anxiety intertwined as I made my way back to the cafe, my pulse quickening. Whatever awaited me could change everything, but I also realized it could leave me shattered. Could I dare hope? And was this meeting the navigable turning point or just another harsh stab in a chain of disappointments? As I approached the cafe, a stark silhouette against the dusky sky, I sensed my world woven together with threads of hope and trepidation, unaware that in just a moment, everything could change again. What if the struggle of countless lives depended on the conversation I was about to have? The familiar warmth of the cafe enveloped me, a hauntingly beautiful ghost of what once was. Its doors stood defiantly closed, like a fortress guarding memories. I stood there, the penny pressing against my palm, a reminder of the strange connection that had blossomed between this place and me. I took a deep breath, steadying my resolve, and pushed the door open. It creaked, echoing the solitude within. The dim light cast shadows across tables that had once buzzed with laughter and conversation. I felt a pang of loss, but I held on to the hope that this encounter would usher in some transformation. My heart raced as I scanned the empty space, searching for the figure who had once personified opportunity and change. He emerged from the back, his tall frame backlit by the soft glimmer of light cascading from the kitchen. His familiar features softened when he saw me, the air around us suddenly electric with unspoken words. "I'm glad you came," he said, his voice low and tangible. "I wanted to know why you called," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Each step felt monumental, like walking through shifting sands, unable to decide if I was moving forward or sinking. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said that day," he confessed, his eyes darting away for just a moment as if ashamed of what was brewing in his soul. "About the cafe. About community. About not letting your home disappear." I inhaled sharply, warmth blossoming in my chest. There it was again, the flicker of possibility. "So, what can we do? You've got the power to change things." He hesitated, a storm flickering behind his eyes. "I do. But the truth is, I'm caught in a predicament. The developers, they have the upper hand." The tension in his words coiled around my optimism, and I felt my heart teeter on the edge. I could buy the property, but am tied to my investors. They want a return, and they want this project. Desperation gnawed at my gut. "Then let's find another way. It doesn't have to be just about profit. Think about the people, think about what it means to have a community." His gaze turned serious, studying my face closely. "I want to, but I need more than just idealism. I need a plan. I need support. People who are willing to back this. Who will stand with me." My breath caught in my throat, an echo of the hope that had surged within me moments ago. "We're trying to mobilize the community. You could come to a meeting, talk to them. They need to hear from you." His eyes darkened, and I could see the gears working silently in his mind. "I don't know if I can do that. There are so many interests at play. Someone has to stand up for something bigger than themselves," I urged, my words spilling out like a river trying to break free, my belief in him cascading through my plea. "You've experienced what real loss means. You felt the impact of this community. You can't just let it disappear." Silence enveloped us, heavy and thick. I watched as shadows danced across his face, battling with uncertainty. Then slowly, a crack of resolve appeared in his expression. "Okay, it'll come. But if I do this, we have to act fast. And I can't promise anything." Just as the words settled between us, a deep rumble echoed from outside, the sound of a protest beginning to form. My heart quickened as the reality of our situation crashed back over me. The community had taken to the streets. They were fighting for the cafe, fighting to keep hope alive. "I have to go," I said suddenly, realizing the importance of not only my own voice but the power of the collective. "This isn't just about us." He nodded gravely, understanding the weight of the moment. "I'll see you at the meeting then." There was something fierce in his eyes, a promise that had ignited deep within him. As I stepped outside, the chill of the evening air felt electric against my skin. The protest had gathered momentum quickly, and my heart swelled witnessing faces I recognized, all united under one cause. I joined their ranks, shouting out, demanding change. Then came the surprise, an unexpected ally, Anna, emerging through the crowd, carrying bags of homemade flyers and food, taking charge without hesitation. "We're making signs. We need everyone." Her voice rang through the tension, lifting spirits. "Where is everyone?" I asked, looking for familiar faces, essential parts of our fractured puzzle. rallying people at the corner. "They're organizing speeches," she exclaimed. And suddenly, I was pulled into the whirlwind, hands working together, laughter mixed with shouts of determination, but that moment both lifted and crushed me, an overwhelming surge of unity clashing with the dread that everything could fall apart at any moment. We were reaching for the stars, but we had no safety nets below. As the megaphone crackled to life, Anna called out for stories. She wanted people to share what the cafe meant to them. I could feel the weight of my own story, the urgency to speak out rising within me. And just as I stepped forward ready to share, to weave my truth into the fabric of hope, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. Confused, I pulled it out, glancing at another text that shattered the confidence built. "Tomorrow they'll begin demolition, be careful." Everything I had fought for suddenly felt like it might slip through my fingers again. The world around me faded into a blur, reality collapsing into uncertainty. Whatever momentum I had built, whatever hope surged through the crowd was now shadowed by the cruel tick of time. I stood there, the megaphone fading beneath the rush of my heartbeat. I felt utterly stuck between two worlds, the reality of a fight for survival and the deep-seated terror within that whispered it might all be in vain. As I looked around at the faces illuminated by hope, I realized this was just one piece of the puzzle. The fight was only beginning, and I was now navigating a labyrinth that could lead to either despair or unexpected victory. I took a deep breath, clenching the last coin I had, surrendering to the wave of uncertainty that crashed over me. The question loomed larger: could we truly fight for a home, or were we merely chasing shadows? I pressed the phone tight against my ear, the message weighing heavily in my other hand like an anchor pulling me down into doubt. The sound of the protest dimmed, and for a moment, the chaos of the crowd faded, enveloping me in a thick silence that was deafening. "Who is it?" Anna asked, momentarily pausing in her efforts to organize the gathering. She had noticed the sudden change in my demeanor, the way my energy shifted from hopeful to uncertain in an instant. "It's someone connected to the developers," I managed to stammer out. "They're starting demolition tomorrow." I felt Anna's eyes widen. "What?" "No, we need more time." "I know," I exclaimed, urgency creeping back into my voice. I looked around, desperate for ideas, for ways to turn the tide. The weight of my dilemma spun through my mind like a broken record. How could I share this grim news with a crowd that had shown so much strength and unity? Anna took a deep breath. "We can't let this stop us. We need to keep going. We still have tonight." The nearby chatter of protesters morphed into a low hum, excitement mingling with apprehension. I realized that I could either cast this dark cloud over everything or harness their momentum to rally together in the face of adversity. I flicked my gaze back at the crowd, a sea of determined faces illuminated by the streetlights. This wasn't just about a building or a cafe, it was about a shared heart, a place where we all belonged. I could feel that hope was still alive, flickering among us, refusing to be snuffed out by threats of imminent collapse. Taking a deep breath, I moved towards the makeshift podium where Anna stood, visibly gathering her thoughts for the next speech. "Anna!" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady as I approached her. "I want to share something," she nodded, exchanging the megaphone for the spotlight. "All right, this is our moment. Who's going to step up?" The crowd buzzed with uncertainty but also anticipation. I stepped forward, suddenly acutely aware of how this moment was suspended between hope and despair. A million scenarios raced through my mind. I would either pull us together, inspire action, or risk shattering what we had built in seconds. That I took the megaphone from Anna. The evening air felt thick with expectation as I swallowed hard. "Everyone, listen." I addressed the crowd, and they turned to me, the air charged with anxious energy. "I just received news that demolition for the cafe is scheduled for tomorrow. But this fight is not over. We cannot let them tear down our home without a fight." That a heavy silence fell. I could see disbelief turning into determination as the weight of my words landed. "We've come together tonight not just for a building, but for a community that thrives within these walls." That in that moment, a flicker of defiance swept through the crowd. Whispers transformed into murmurs of agreement as people rallied behind my words. "We have a choice to make: we can either let fear paralyze us or let it fuel our flames. This cafe is the heart of our community. It's where laughter echoes, and friendships are forged. The crowd nodded, some fists raised high, others murmuring promises of support. Tomorrow, we stand together, I continued, reaching deep to find my voice stronger, steadier. I urge you all to join me tomorrow morning. Let's take a stand. Let's show them that we won't back down. That we are worth fighting for. In that moment, amidst the uncertainty, something beautiful sparked. People began shouting in unison, voices joining together like a symphony of rebellion, ignited by hope despite the looming threat. Each voice was a testament to who we were, and my heart surged with an unexpected warmth, a tiny flame igniting bravery within each of us. Then, as if summoned by the very spirit of the cafe itself, a figure emerged from the fringe of the crowd. It was James, the man who had previously stood before me with the storm of indecision etched upon his brow. The light from the street lamps danced on his face, and I felt a rush of disbelief mixed with hope as he stepped forward, the crowd parting slightly. "For him that I am in," he said, his voice cutting through the evening's tension. "I'll support this fight. We can organize. We can create a plan, not just for today but for a future." His dark eyes burned with a fire I had longed to see. The crowd erupted again, this time in cheers. I looked at him, mouth agape, overwhelmed by the tide shifting beneath us. Maybe there was a chance, a glimmer of something profound. Maybe this venture we were undertaking could ripple beyond today. But just as the energy peaked, smashing against the walls of doubt, my phone buzzed again, vibrating against my palm as if to remind me of the harsh reality waiting beyond our hopeful barricade. A solitary message blinked into view, and the air seemed to grow heavy once more. "The developers have brought security. They plan to start after dark." Panic began to seep through me, threatening to choke the hope I had just ignited. I looked at James, and the realization hit us both simultaneously. We weren't just fighting for a building anymore. Now, we were standing against the very forces that sought to silence us. Holding the megaphone tightly, I felt the gravity of everything we'd built and everything we could still lose. "We need to act," I whispered, determination dawning amidst a storm of uncertainty. The crowd remained, resolute, and together we could face whatever was coming. There was no turning back now. The fight was only just beginning. The night wore on, the buzz of the crowd fading into a restless hum, each heartbeat echoing with the anxiety of anticipation. A chill settled in the air as I paced back and forth, mind racing with possibilities and the crushing weight of the unknown. Around me, the crowd began to dissipate as plans were made, alliances formed, and a tangible sense of urgency grew. Anna stood beside me, her brow furrowed with determination. "We need a strategy. Let's find a way to rally people to our cause, stir emotions, share stories. We can't let this be just about the cafe anymore, we have to make it about each of us." "Right," I agreed, feeling the lump tightening in my throat again. "This is about our stories, isn't it? What brought us here? What makes us family?" My gaze swept over the faces of our neighbors and friends, a powerful tapestry woven together by shared laughter and struggles. As the light dimmed into darkness, I glanced back at where the cafe stood, a wavering silhouette against the night sky. A flickering sign swung gently in the breeze, a reassuring presence as if the building itself was whispering for us to keep fighting. I felt a surge of hope surge again. It was fragile but unmistakable. In that moment of contemplation, I noticed a young girl weaving through the crowd, carrying a small cardboard box. She looked scrappy, unkempt hair framing her dirt-smudged face. Curiosity wove through me as I watched her approach, her eyes wide with sincerity. The chatter quieted as she reached the front, eyes darting between us, uncertainty battling with determination. "Are you fighting to save your home?" she asked, her voice bold yet trembling. "Yes," I replied, kneeling to be on her level. "This cafe is really important to our community." She nodded vigorously, then lifted the cardboard box with surprising care. "I want to help. I sold my drawings to save money, and this is all I have." She opened the box, revealing crumpled bills and coins. A small collection, but in her eyes burned a fierce pride. "I may not be able to change the world, but I can help change this. My heart sank and soared all at once. Here was this child, stripped of so much, yet still wanting to give. Uncertainty gnawed at me as I saw the crowd's reaction. Some whispered, others looked on in awe. It was a moment that bridged divides, a gesture so pure it lit a path of empathy within us that I took a shaky breath, overwhelmed. Your generosity means the world to us. Thank you. But then, a tense heaviness swept over the gathering. Just as I thought the moment would encapsulate everything we stood for, the rumbling of engines broke through the night, deep and ominous. The collective dread washed over us like a shadow. Even the small girl's eyes widened as headlights pierced the darkness. Here they come, James said, his voice barely above a whisper. My heart raced. The developers had brought reinforcements. As the vehicles came into view, a line of security personnel filtered out, their presence imposing as they navigated toward the entrance of the cafe, clad in uniforms that seemed to snuff out the light of hope we had forged. We need to move. Create a blockade. I shouted, adrenaline igniting my limbs. A sense of urgency thrummed through the crowd as they snapped into action, faces now painted with determination. Pushing forward, we formed a chain near the door, each body joining together a living wall against the encroaching threat. Keep talking. Anna yelled over the chaos. Tell them why this matters. I opened my mouth, words rushing out in a torrent. This cafe is more than bricks and mortar. It's a sanctuary. Each person here carries a story, a memory carved within these walls. We've built a home, a haven for lost souls and dreamers. And we're not about to let you take that away without a fight. The voices around me surged, rising above the rumble of the engines. The warmth of shared resolve wrapped around us, igniting fragments of hope even in this extreme moment. Suddenly, a voice cut through the fray. What's happening here? A tall man stepped forward, removing his sunglasses as he surveyed the scene. Recognition washed over me. It was the millionaire who had purchased the land but remained largely behind the scenes. Sir, shouted one of the security guards, moving to explain. These people are creating a disturbance. That he raised a hand, silencing the protest with an unexpected calm. Wait. Those around us fell silent, tension hanging thick in the air. The man turned his gaze toward me, and it felt like time slowed. Is this cafe really that important to you? Yes. I exclaimed, voice trembling slightly in my desperation. It's not just a place to gather, it's home. It's a lifeline in a world that often feels harsh and cold. He regarded me for a moment, almost searching, and then something flickered behind his eyes. Empathy or doubt, it was hard to tell, but just as quickly as the moment rippled with possibility, the heaviness returned. It'll help you fight, he said slowly. But if it doesn't work. Before he could finish, I felt the earth beneath us shift. It was a single, reverberating pulse, like a heartbeat, a reminder of lives interconnected. I have to know, will you fight alongside us or against us? His answer would decide everything. And as uncertainty loomed dark and thick around us, I realized that the truth would be revealed in ways none of us could anticipate. Would he understand the gravity of this moment, or would he be the very force working to snuff out our flickering flame? As the crowd held its breath, I waited for a response that could ignite the future of our community or crumble it entirely. The silence stretched, pregnant with tension. The millionaire's gaze bore into mine, his expression shifting like the clouds overhead. It'll help you fight, he finally said, his voice steady but uncertain. My heart soared for a fleeting moment, hope springing like a wildflower amidst concrete. But as he continued, the air crackled with an undercurrent of fear. It'll help, but if it doesn't work I can't be responsible for what comes next. There are powers greater than us at play. The crowd murmured, apprehension rippling through them like a wave. Anna's hand squeezed my arm, a grounding presence. If we don't stand together, we lose everything, she reminded quietly, her eyes scanning the looming threat of the guards. I nodded, but doubt crept in like shadows at twilight. The billionaire's conditional support felt like a fragile promise, a glimmering thread dancing on the edge of being severed. What did he know of loss that could outweigh the weight we all carried? Just then, the rumble of engines neared, and the guards took a step forward, their faces steeled with the authority of their jobs. "Move aside," one of them barked, the command abrupt and harsh, shattering any illusion of unity. "This is private property. You are trespassing. No," shouted a neighbor, her voice rising above the commotion. "This is our home. You can't just take it." "Step back, ma'am," the guard warned, but her defiance sparked fire in others. "We won't let you take this from us." The crowd surged with a renewed fervor, and suddenly I felt the profound weight of what we were fighting for as we became a living embodiment of resistance. Each face tethered to the other told a story, and as those stories melded into a collective roar of emotions, the young girl's cardboard box resurfaced in my mind. Her offerings, her quiet bravery. It was what we needed: heart, vulnerability, and shared courage. As tensions flared, tears pricked at my eyes, and I spotted the little girl off to the side, her small hands clutching a makeshift sign adorned with crude drawings of our cafe, hearts, and slogans that read "Save Our Home." She stood there, oblivious to the tension but unmistakably brave. It was a striking reminder that, sometimes, the purest hearts could bring the most profound change. "Listen," I called out, desperation mingling with conviction. "We have a choice to make. This isn't just a fight for a building, it's a fight for our stories, our lives. We may be scared, but we stand stronger when we stand together." The billionaire shifted, his expression softening. It was fleeting, but it ignited a spark of recognition. The guards hesitated, their confidence momentarily shaken by our unity. "Please," the young girl shouted, her voice high and unwavering. "Don't let them take our home away. I sold my things for this." Her words landed like a weight, a profound plea echoing in our hearts. In that instant, I noticed a shift among the guards, their resolve beginning to crack. Suddenly, one of the security personnel stepped forward, lowering his guard. "You know," he said awkwardly, seemingly caught off guard by the scene unfolding, "I grew up in a neighborhood like this. We had a cafe." Two gasps rippled through the crowd, surprise melting into something oddly comforting. There was a flicker of recognition, a hint of empathy. "I get it. It's not just about a building," he continued, glancing at his fellow guards. "It's about community." I felt a bolt of courage surge through the crowd. "Together, we can make a statement," I urged, emboldened by the moment. "Let's show them what we're made of. United, we can push back against those who want to silence us. Let's turn this into a celebration of who we are." The atmosphere shifted, hope shimmering like a beacon amidst uncertainty. Some began chanting, a simple beat resounding through the night. "Save our home. Save our home." It swelled, growing louder, reverberating off the cafe walls. But as our momentum built, I felt a familiar pang of anxiety grip my chest. Was this just a temporary heartbeat in a seemingly endless battle? And beneath my resolve, a fear gnawed at my thoughts. What if the billionaire's promise was not as steadfast as I wished? As the chant continued, I caught sight of shadows moving in the distance. Another car was pulling up, dark figures emerging against the night sky. My heart sank. "We need to get ready," I shouted, but I wasn't sure what else to do. Another wave of security had arrived, their presence threatening to crush the flickering hope of resistance. Just then, the ground rumbled again beneath our feet, a reminder of instability, of impermanence. Are we ready to fight for what matters? I yelled out, urgency in my voice. Or do we fear this is the end? The crowd's response felt fractured, faltering. Some held steadfast, others looked uneasy, uncertainty coiling around us like fog. Then, suddenly, a loud crash echoed in the night. A window shattered, the sound slicing through the tension like a knife. "Get down!" I shouted, heart pounding, as chaos erupted. My world spun crazily as I searched for Anna, the crowd panicking around me. And in that instant, as I scanned the sea of strangers and friends alike, I realized I might have just sacrificed our last moment of unity. Would this be the moment where everything unraveled, or would we find strength in the storm approaching? The answer loomed ahead, dark and foreboding, while the shattering promise of hope slipped through my fingers like sand, leaving but the echo of a girl's courage lingering in my heart. The crowd erupted into chaos, a swarm of bodies clawing for safety, pushing and pulling in frantic motions. I felt the heat of panic crashing over us, thick and suffocating. The guards were positioning themselves like wolves, eyes glinting with a predatory focus that sent a shiver down my spine. "Anna!" I cried out, searching wildly for her familiar silhouette in the throng. Her absence felt like an anchor weighing me down, paralyzing me in uncertainty. I turned as the guards advanced, their hands tightening around their flashlights like weapons, each movement calculated and cruel. "Stay together!" I yelled, but my voice was drowned by the chaos, swallowed by screams and shouts that rang off the walls like a symphony of desperation. A few brave souls rallied around me, grasping hands and exchanging glances that bore the weight of shared resolve, and then, amid the murmur of fear and courage, a single brave heart called out again. "Stand firm! Remember what we're fighting for." The girl, the little one with the sign, stood steadfast as if she believed that her courage could hold back the tide. I caught sight of her again, small but mighty, her voice flourishing above the fray, reminding us of the very essence of this moment, but just as quickly as I grounded myself in her courage, another loud crash resounded from the café, and I turned to see a group of guards charging through the broken window, their intentions clear. The shattering glass served as a haunting metaphor: our unity was fragile, and so easily torn apart. "Run!" I shouted, instinct driving me as I pushed against the tide of humanity pressed against me. I needed to find Anna. Something deep inside told me she would be in the eye of this chaotic storm. Desperate, I maneuvered through the crowd, weaving around towering frames and frantic arms, clinging to the memory of her laughter as my lodestar. The gravity of loss loomed over me, a reminder of all that we stood to lose. Each step felt like an echo of doubt if we were just fighting against the inevitable. Finally, I spotted her, crouched behind a battered table, the remnants of our gathering providing scant cover against the encroaching threat. Relief flooded me, but it was immediately tainted by fear. "Anna, you need to get up. We have to move." She looked up, her eyes wide and shimmering with tears, a contrast to the bold resolve she had shown moments before. "I'm scared," she whispered, the words fragile and raw. "I know," I replied, kneeling to her level, every instinct compelling me to shield her. "But we can face it together. You showed everyone that fighting starts from our hearts. Don't lose that now." Just as I was about to pull her to her feet, a voice boomed above us, amplified and imposing. "That's enough. You are all trespassing and obstructing law enforcement. You need to disperse immediately." The tone was unwavering, steeped in authority, but it felt more like a gavel striking down to render a verdict than a plea for peace. I turned, spotting the source. The billionaire stood tall, his presence strangely commanding amidst the turmoil. "Is this what you want? A fight?" he cried, hands raised in a gesture that should have exuded calm but instead sparked a different flame within the crowd. "You need to see reason. No one wants violence today, there's a better solution." Yet, the crowd churned with restive energy, caught between trust and anger, their spirits battling the grim reality of the moment. I remembered his promise and wondered whether that resolve had fractured under the weight of our reality. Hope was a capricious thing, and every moment felt like a tightening noose. "Stand together!" I shouted again, borrowing strength from Anna beside me. "We chose this fight because we believe. We believe in our home, in our stories, and those who have shared them with us. Isn't that worth something?" But doubt hung heavy in the air, palpable enough to choke off our voices. I felt its manifestation creeping closer with the guards, their approach steady, an intimidating march towards our dreams. Then, as the tension reached its breaking point, the little girl's voice, fragile yet fierce, broke through the clamor. "You can't take my home. I sold everything for it. Why don't you care?" There was a flicker of something in the eyes of the guards, a crack in their armor of indifference. For just a moment, they hesitated, and I wondered if her words could pierce even the hardest of hearts, but that flicker was fleeting, and with it, the opportunity to rally them to our cause. Just as the tide seemed to turn, my gaze darted back to the billionaire, his demeanor shifting once more. His confidence wavered, and a shadow passed over his face like a cloud blocking the sun. Enough. He howled suddenly, a wild desperation gripping his voice. You don't understand what you're up against. There are things in motion that go well beyond this. If you continue, you all. An explosion of sound interrupted him. A window shattered again, this time deeper in the cafe as the guards pushed inside, shoving furniture aside as if it were all insignificant. The floor felt like it could drop out beneath me. Anna, we have to go. I shouted, throwing my arm around her before yanking her up. But in the next breath, a scream pierced the air, not from the crowd, but from within the cafe. It was a sound so primal it stopped us in our tracks. My heart raced as I turned back to see a figure rushing toward Yuson I never expected to see again. Wait. Don't hurt her. The voice cried, raw and gasping. It was Claire, my estranged sister, her face alabaster, eyes wild. My heart pounded even harder, a mix of anger and shock flooding my veins. After all these years, she had come, but the timing couldn't have been worse. Before I could grasp the significance, she collapsed, caught in the crossfire of our turmoil, and suddenly everything changed. All the courage I had felt moments ago shattered into a million pieces, replaced by the urgency of protecting not just a home, but the very fabric of family that had long been frayed, and it all hung in precarious balance. The air was electric with a sudden apprehension, a stillness that fell over the crowd like a shroud. Claire, sprawled on the ground, gasping for breath, was a painful reminder of all that could unravel in an instant. Her once familiar face, now a canvas of worry and exhaustion, pulled at the heartstrings I thought had gone numb from abandonment. The guards had momentarily halted their advance, bewildered by her appearance, and in that heartbeat, time itself seemed to stretch as if weighing the gravity of our impending choices. Claire. I stumbled over my words as I kneeled by her side, ignoring the world threatening to collapse around us. What are you doing here? I thought you were gone. Her breaths were ragged, yet she managed a weak smile that flickered with uncertainty. I had to find you to warn you. You don't understand what's at stake here. The sincerity in her tone paralleled the desperation in her eyes as she grasped my wrist with unexpected strength. Enough is happening behind the scenes. You're all in danger that I can't leave you, I broke, glancing at Anna and the group caught up in the chaos, each face brimming with fear, uncertainty. I was torn between the desire to pull Claire away from the growing maelstrom, to protect her and keep Anna safe as the world spiraled around us. Listen. Claire insisted, sensing my hesitation. The billionaire, he's not just a businessman. He's part of a larger machine. If they think you're challenging their authority, her voice trembled, imbued with unspoken knowledge that sank deep into my heart like a stone. The gravity of her revelation struck me, but I couldn't afford to rest on her words. We can't just back down. This is our home. We've come too far to turn back now, I protested, locking eyes with Anna, whose gaze echoed the turmoil I felt within. A flicker of courage sparked in Anna's demeanor. But if it's going to hurt people, if it puts you at risk, her voice wavered, torn by youthful hope and an inkling of fear that felt far too heavy for her small shoulders. Claire, what do we do? I turned back to my sister, seeking answers wrapped in her urgency. All this time, I had assumed I was surviving alone, yet here was the very essence of my past, asking me to reconsider everything I'd fought for. Protest, yes, but smartly, she urged, her eyes darting between me and the guards slowly regrouping. You need to show them that your fight isn't one of violence but of love. Leverage what they least expect. Even as doubt gnawed at me, her conviction tugged at an aching part of my heart that yearned for connection, the unbreakable bond between sisters, molded by years of shared dreams and heartbreak. Just trust me, please, she pleaded, her voice steady as she squeezed my hand, igniting a flicker of hope within me. In that moment, something shifted. I could see the way her words dug deep into the trembling foundation of the crowd. I could feel the energy shift, like a beat forgotten suddenly rushing back to life. "We can still stand together," I urged, addressing the gathering crowd before us. "But we need to redefine this fight. Not merely against their power, but for our home." As I spoke, I glanced toward the billionaire who stood on the periphery, observing with a mixture of intrigue and concern. "You can't just silence our stories," I continued, my words imbued with a passion that transcended fear. "You can't erase the hearts that beat under this roof. We will not be broken." A ripple ran through the crowd, a subtle stirring that swelled into a swell of murmurs, a collective reawakening resonating through the throng of people. I felt their belief coalescing around me. Together, we could attend to the vacant spaces between loss and love. "Please," Claire urged, "just listen to me." I heard them talking, planning. "They'll strike again. You have a chance to turn things around before it's too late." Suddenly, the guards surged forward again, emboldened by the shift in the atmosphere, their movements quick like a predator reveling in a hunt. A bolt of panic shot through me. The sound of the crowd heightening in fear sent electric tremors down my spine. "Move!" I shouted to the nearest faces, pushing Anna and Claire to run alongside as we scrambled toward the exit. "Well, figure it out. Well, gather again, and well, take a stand in a way they can't ignore." But as I ushered them forward, a scream tore through the air, a voice overwhelmed by the tumult, calling out as fear blossomed anew. I turned back to see the little girl, her small figure recognized even in the chaos, arms outstretched toward us as she faltered away from her makeshift banner, the very symbol of our collective struggle. "No. Help!" she cried, the desperation lacing her words like a raw wound. Time slowed as a guard turned towards her, his grip around the baton tightening, raising it like an executioner's axe, a grim-faced predator ready to take down the innocent. "Stop!" I hadn't prepared for the urgency in my own voice that cracked through the chaos. With my heart pounding against my ribcage, I surged forward, praying desperately for a sliver of hope amidst the storm brewing inside. But as I lunged, and our eyes locked across a distance I could barely comprehend it, everything twisted in a breathtaking flash. Just as I reached out, a fist struck me, brutal and swift, and the world around me blurred into darkness. The last thing I saw before everything faded was the look on Claire's face, fear morphing into an indescribable horror as the echo of her voice cut through the falling haze. "No. Not again." In that moment, I realized the anchors of this battle loomed impossibly ahead. Our stories were just beginning to weave together in a tapestry drenched in hope, love, and inevitable sacrifice. Even if I could not fight against the tide, something in me knew I had to rise against it once more, even if it meant stepping into the unknown once again. I awoke to the sensation of a gentle hand on my shoulder, warmth seeping through the fog that clung to my consciousness. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust, but when they did, I found myself lying on a familiar velvety sofa, surrounded by the muted sounds of worried voices. Faint light spilled in through sheer curtains, illuminating the disarray of what was once a sanctuary. "Claire!" I croaked, my voice hoarse as I struggled to sit up. Panic coursed through me, and I instinctively searched for the faces of those I loved, the faces of the community that had grown so precious in such a short time. "She's safe, don't worry," said a soft voice. Anna knelt beside me, her expression a mixture of concern and relief. "You took quite a hit. We were so scared." I rubbed my throbbing temples and frowned. "What happened?" "The protest, the guards, they backed down," Anna said, her eyes glistening. "We showed them that our voices matter. They couldn't afford to escalate it further with the media present. When the little girl called out, it changed everything." Remembering that moment, dread washed over me like cold water. But she could have been hurt. I could have been. Anna shook her head, silencing my fears. Everyone rallied around her. It solidified our strength. It brought in support from unexpected places. People wanted to be part of our story. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and there stood Claire, cautiously stepping inside, guarded but alive. My heart raced at the sight of her, and despite the bruises we both bore, she radiated a strange light. Whatever fracture had split us apart, that moment melted it away. "Thank you for being brave," she whispered, her voice a fragile thread connecting us. Unshed tears glimmered in her eyes, and without a word, we entwined our arms, a silent pact solidifying bonds unbreakable by chaos that I was so scared, I admitted, the earlier turmoil washing away like sands through my fingers. I thought I lost you again. I thought we had failed. She shook her head fiercely, determination weaving through her words. No. We're here, and it's time to really fight. The support has been overwhelming. People have rallied. News outlets picked up our story. The cafe, our home, everyone is coming together. We shared a moment of understanding, the echoes of what we had fought for reverberating through our souls. My heart swelled with something I hadn't felt in so long, a fierce, unyielding hope. With Anna at my side, we dove back into the world, enveloped by the newspapers splashed with stories of our fight, faces drawn with emotion, the community standing literally at the ready, waiting for us to guide them forward once more. Days morphed into a whirlwind of activity. We organized rallies, shared our visions, and began to embrace the significance of this coffee, a living, breathing entity cradling the echoes of laughter, sacrifice, and comfort. It became a safe haven for the struggling souls, the ghosts I once thought I had become, and the millionaire. He stepped up, albeit hesitantly, yet there was a shift in him as well. Open dialogue blossomed as he faced the developers, realigning their priorities. Each meeting felt like the stitching of a patchwork quilt, one where courage collided with unapologetic truth. At a pivotal town hall, he stood beside me, advocating for the cafe in a way I once thought impossible. He shared his own struggles, the hidden fears of those who felt oppressed by an unforgiving world. And in that moment, I saw not just a man but a warrior for all of us who had ever felt voiceless. Our community's resolve ran deeper than surface-level pity. It was revolutionary in its insistence that the lives woven together couldn't simply be erased. We showed the world, our community, that we mattered, and then came the day we fought for the right to our home in a way that transcended words. The cafe buzzed once more, filled with warmth and laughter. Children ran alongside adults, visions of the future mixed with the joy of the present. We gathered, invited the media, and together we told our stories, each one a thread in the tapestry of our fight for the cafe. As we stood shoulder to shoulder, my heart beat steadily, fiercely aware of every story around us connecting like veins moving through a shared heart. We were not just fighting for brick and mortar, we were advocating for our voices, for community, and for the love that grounded us. The sun set, painting the horizon crimson and gold as I looked at my sister, Anna, and the million faces reflecting in their expressions. I felt the warmth of hands inside mine, not just any hands, those of individuals I had once viewed as strangers who had ultimately become my family. Together, we breathed, demanding change, not just for ourselves but for every soul echoed in the stories we shared. Sometimes, it wasn't about winning every battle but the realization that connections forged amid hardship can reshape destinies, droplets of hope cascading into a wave, carrying us together into a future we never thought possible. As twilight surrendered to night, I raised my voice one last time, calling out to those gathered around the cafe, a chorus of vibrant souls that refused to be put aside. This is our home. This is our community. And together, we will fight for it, fiercely and soulfully. That night, I realized the truth. Sometimes the fight isn't merely about winning or losing, it's about the fierce, unyielding heart of community, pulsating stronger for every sacrifice made and every voice that dared to rise. And somewhere within that battle, I found my home. It was not the cafe alone, but within each of us, a powerful reminder that our stories mattered, weaving beautifully into the fabric of our lives. And as we all stood together, I knew we had finally built something worth fighting for. That ineffable connection clung to us, binding our hearts like the strongest of threads, unified and steadfast. We were not just a community, we were family. In the end, it wasn't just a fight for survival or even the cafe itself, it was a sacred journey to rediscover connection, and in the simplest of truths, I understood we could weather any storm, so long as we faced it together. As I stood amidst the warmth of hope shared by all, I understood, home is not merely a place, it is a feeling that blossoms when love is shared, and voices unite. It's the courage we summon to stand together, refusing to let fear extinguish the light we've ignited within one another. I knew that, even in the darkest hours, we must always take heart, because home was not just something you find, it was something you create, together.